From Florida's Space Coast, this is Your Career.
Welcome to Your Career. I'm Debbie Featherston, your host, and I am joined by three guests tonight who are here to talk about manufacturing and the importance of workforce readiness. With me from Eastern Florida State College is Frank Margiotta.
Thank you, Debbie. Pleasure to be here.
Delighted to have you. And Janice Scholz, who is with the Brevard Public Schools.
Yes, thank you. Delighted as well.
And Tina Berger, and you are with the Career Source Brevard.
Yes, thanks for having us.
I tell you, I am so delighted to have the three of you here because you bring different perspectives to this very important conversation. And I'm just curious, why would someone want a job in manufacturing today?
Well, manufacturing is not just limited to engineering, assembly, design work. These companies are complex, and they have a number of different career paths in business, in sales, marketing, purchasing, supply chain management. So an individual who starts a career in manufacturing has many other avenues to pursue as their career advances. And as we all know, your first career will probably not be your last, or what you're working in your first job is not going to be where you end up.
So there's great opportunity to evolve.
Tremendous opportunity for growth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, the thing that's important for everyone to understand that manufacturing is the base of our economy. It always has been, and that's why we're trying to bring jobs back and reshore. And today's workplace is very different than what it was back in even the 80s, where they're air-conditioned, they're lean manufacturing principles, they're clean, there are just much more advanced technologies that are being used in the workforce these days. And we need to remember that there's something for everyone, from an entry-level worker all the way to the top CEOs in these companies. And when you look at manufacturing, you think about manufacturing, is that every single thing in our lives is manufactured, from our toothbrush to our furniture to spacecraft to cell phones. And so there are many very interesting opportunities, like the young adults who think that gaming have great potential careers in manufacturing, as a matter of fact. And the great thing about manufacturing is that for every manufacturing job, there are 2.5 other jobs created as a result of that, whether it's in shipping and handling, et cetera. And so it is an economic driver for us as well. And so it's really important as we reshore jobs that we fill that skills gap.
Yeah, and there definitely has been a real resurgence of manufacturing. Janice?
Well, for young people, I think it's the idea that they get to be creative and design things and be a part of something big and something that makes a difference in people's lives. If you're designing, whether it's an airplane or a medical device, you get to be a part of something that's really going to make a difference in somebody's lives. And I think for young people, that's like a dream come true.
Make a difference, absolutely. That's good. That's good. I'm curious, you know, how would you describe, if you had an opportunity to really give somebody a tour of a facility today, and you started touching on this, Tina, so it kind of prompted this question in my head, what would that physical space look like?
Today, manufacturing is clean, automated, much safer than it was in the past. Its technology is changing everything very quickly, and I like to use the analogy of just how agriculture was changed by technological advances, where 20% of the workforce was in agriculture, and today we have 2%, yet we're producing much more than we did 100 years ago. And I think it's very possible that we'll see the same renaissance occur within manufacturing, but it will require a different skill set. So I think it's a very exciting time. However, it's going to take a little while to get there, 10, 20, maybe 30 years. And before we get there, there are a number of manufacturing jobs that need to be filled today, and there's no better way to be the best at your occupation, the best at your career, than learning the business from the ground up.
So. And so when you're talking about that, I'm beginning to think about robotics and how robotics are going to be we know that they are there, but I think that's going to be some real advancement in the way that they're used. And so that may be...
We're already seeing that today.
Yeah, we see it today. We're going to see more of it probably.
And there's jobs, not just operating those machines, those robots, but those who maintain and
Sure.
repair those machines.
Sure,
program.
absolutely.
And
So
program
different
them.
jobs, different way that we do our jobs for some of us are going to be impacted by this automation and technology that we call robotics.
Well, it's vital to manufacturing
Sure.
success because we are having these huge skills gaps, and then we're having a retiring workforce. So not only do we have new jobs coming in, but we have skilled labor that's going away, that's retiring in the next 5 years. I believe something like 40% within our county. So there are not necessarily even the bodies to do it anymore. In the period of time that we offshored jobs, American manufacturers learned how to become leaner and more profit-driven. And as a result, automation has not taken jobs away in this present day. They are necessary to keep manufacturing facilities open because they can take people from very redundant tasks to elevating those people with some skills training to managing the process instead of actually physically doing things.
Yeah,
And so that's one of the biggest changes that you'll see.
Well, recently I had the opportunity to interview 3 leaders who are of manufacturing associations that span Central Florida. And during the discussion, we talked about some of the challenges that were faced and some of the different issues that they were having to address. And workforce readiness was cited as probably one of the biggest issues. And I'm curious, tell the viewers a little bit more about, take a deeper dive. And Frank, I'd like to start with you. What does Eastern Florida do to really help address this issue?
Certainly, and we hear the same thing from employers that they seek individuals who are willing to learn. They'll teach them many of the skills they need to know, but they must have some of these soft skills or life skills. They need to be dependable and show up on work on time, reliable. They need to be accountable, take responsibility. And so what we do at the college is we have a set of 5 what we call core abilities: work cooperatively, think critically, solve problems, model ethical and civic behavior, communicate effectively. And in every one of our courses, we try to measure at least one of these core abilities so that we ensure that the graduates that we produce are what employers are looking for. And sometimes that might be measured, model civic and ethical behavior. If there's an accident or something gets spilled in a lab, will they properly clean it up, mitigate any safety hazardous risks? Will they take responsibility for it? Think critically and solve problems. That might be measured in what we call a capstone course, which culminates a program, and they have a big project that they have to solve and accomplish in the semester. So we try to measure these things in addition to the general education and core technical skills that the students acquire.
Well, if I could jump in there, I think one of the things that we would all agree is that we're moving more towards competency-based and applied learning. For example, in the new machine center here, that they're actually working on the machines. It's not just theory. They are involved in, as Frank said, there are projects and they're doing team projects, practical hands-on. And in order to pass, even with certifications in some degrees, they have to actually do those skills to earn their certification.
So they actually demonstrate their ability to perform the tasks and the activities then. Okay.
Yeah, it also means we are, academia in general is looking to provide more pathways for individuals to get a degree. And if someone has been in an industry, has in certain industry certifications, completed an apprenticeship program, if they can validate, why should a master electrician who wants to get a technical degree have to take a basic electricity class? They can demonstrate that they already have that knowledge, those skills, and rather than requiring them to sit in that chair for 48 hours, we can grant them
waive
what
that, give them the
call
credit.
articulated credit.
Okay,
for
articulated
that.
credit.
And we do the same thing going from the secondary school system to the post-secondary. We have some, we call them memorandums of understanding, articulation agreements, where our students, if they've gotten some certain skills or made certain grades or passed certain certifications, then the college looks at those and awards credit
Anybody want to share a little bit more about what you specifically do?
Well, with Cursus
addressing this?
Brevard, we are workforce development, and so we have individuals come to us who are career seekers, who have either lost their jobs or are trying to transition into new jobs. So we work very closely with the education systems and community partners to, through a variety of grants or testing, steer them towards careers that meet their skills or their interests. And through, again, as I said, grants that are made available, we can either send them to Eastern Florida and just provide general training for them so that they
So
can
how would that
get
really
into
work
a
then, Tina?
job.
How would that really work? Is it that, you know, an employer in the community reaches out and says, I need training, and you know, they're asking for a grant? Or
Well-
is it a job seeker that knocks on a door and that gets employed? Or is
Well,
it a
it's
combination
both.
of those?
It's a combination
Okay.
of those. So Cursus Brevard is funded through grants, a variety of grants. I happen to run a manufacturing grant that is a national emergency grant specifically focused on upskilling and developing a talent pipeline for manufacturing. But we may have 10 grants, and whether it's Next Gen or whatever. So when an individual comes in, that is based on individual eligibility if they're looking for training that will help them move up the career ladder. At the same time, I am out in the field and talking to manufacturers, and they're saying if they just had, you know, a blueprint reading class or something, et cetera, then my grant says that if manufacturers are asking for that, then I will go to Frank and say, let's put together a course, and my grant can potentially fund some of that through not just the individual eligibility of tuition, but also on the other side of on-the-job training dollars that will offset that sting, if you will, of onboarding a new person. At the same time, we work with other organizations like the EDC who may get a larger grant specifically. So, for example, right now we're focused on career production technician CPT training. And so you have like 5 organizations working together to get career seekers to provide the education, and then at the same time we're then trying to get them employed through on-the-job training. So, to your point, a variety of different ways.
Perfect.
Brevard Public
Thank you.
Schools, we have the captured audience of the students that are in school, and sometimes they drift into our class because no other reason somebody puts them there. Sometimes they drift in there because they really want to be in there. But for me, I think it's exposure for students that may not have any clue, and what they do think they want is based upon the media, what they see on TV, which isn't necessarily an accurate description of what that work is. They don't see much manufacturing on TV. Maybe now more with Dirty Jobs and some of these shows they're seeing a little bit. But for me, the words I like to use for our students in secondary schools is eliminate or validate. I think I might want to have a job in manufacturing, and I go and I get exposed to stuff and I say, yes, this is exactly what I want to do, and I can see myself moving around, or I go, no, not so much. But I think it's better that they make those decisions while they're young. That's going to help them on their path as they move on with their education or their job. So,
how are you actually partnering? Give me kind of an example of how you're really partnering with manufacturers in building their talent, because we know we have 2 groups, right, as we've been talking about. Through Cursus Brevard, it might be someone that's newly recruited, but then we have an existing workforce also that may need to have additional training and knowledge to remain valid.
we have
competitive.
advisory committees, which so does the college, for each one of our programs, and
Okay.
they meet at least twice a year, if not more frequently. And those advisory committees are our partners, and they talk to us about what it is they're doing, what equipment they're using, what skills they need.
This advisory, they're made up of manufacturers? Okay,
Yes.
so
And
they're
each-
exactly the
and
people
each-
you need to talk to.
Absolutely. And they not only come to our meetings and talk about our curriculum, but they put our students in, they hire our students, or they put our students in internships, or they come and they work with our students as far as how to do a job application, or how to have a job interview, or what specific skills. You know, sometimes a teacher becomes like their mother, and so they don't really listen to the teacher. But when somebody comes from a business and they say, you know, you don't wear flip-flops to an interview, they listen. They not only put our students in internships, we also have some of our teachers that work for some of our businesses in the summer, so that they can have a refreshment of their skills, and they start building those relationships and partnerships so that when I need somebody, they feel confident that they can call the teacher and say, hey, I need somebody. And it's just, it builds like a family of trust and just sharing back and forth.
That seems like a little bit of a unique feature. Is that something that is more commonplace today, where you have teachers, public school teachers that are, you know, interning in manufacturing environments?
We do it through our Carl Perkins funding. We call it TIES, Teachers in Industry. And we want anybody that has a new software or a new skill or a new program or new to the program, we'll put them to work in the summer for at least 120 hours. That's 3 weeks full time.
And it's critical, because if you have teachers who are teaching outdated practices and things, I mean, it's really relevant. And one of the things that I enjoy when I go out is oftentimes I will call the teacher who heads the manufacturing academy, and she will accompany me to a manufacturing site, and we again build that relationship as well. So we have a really close-knit group here, I think, that's really working very, very well together.
So
we
your
bumped our way through
organizations-
some things.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Field trips
All
is
three
another
of you
thing.
work together. Okay,
Oh, yeah, we
good.
take our kids on field trips. We've even some of our manufacturers have opened their doors to parents of the students, and that was, the parents were like, "Wow, I wish I could work here." Yeah.
And I'm really pleased at the collaboration that we've seen here in Brevard County over the last several years with Career Source Brevard, with Brevard Public Schools, and with the Economic Development Commission. In addition to industry advisory committees that guide all of our career and technical programs, we also use adjunct instructors, part-time instructors who work in industry and can bring some of those best practices, best workplace practices to the classroom. Also, most of our instructors, or many of our instructors, have an industry background before coming to work full-time. I believe one of them, Ted Hartzell, was on your show earlier.
Absolutely.
He had a long career at the Space Center. And just having that background is so invaluable in the classroom, because they can present to the students a practical, this is why you need to know this.
Right.
I was at the Space Center, and this equipment was not properly stowed, and it came loose, and it caused a lot of damage and injury. You know, these are why we're trying to teach you these things. And so the manufacturers and all business people are very busy, and we're all clamoring for their time, for their advice, for their guidance, for their input. And collectively, you know, we have been able to come together and ask them the same information that we all want once, and take it and apply it as needed from there.
Yeah,
So.
perfect.
We've actually had some of our advisory committees go with us to visit other programs so that they could see what it looks like. We've had a lot of input regarding the kind of machines we should buy, even the layout of our room. Really valuable input, and I know we've shared some of that together, and we've gone on trips together with our, you know, with our industry partners, so we can see what are they doing in other parts of the state. We want to see what we don't like as well as what we do like. And so they've been incredibly generous with their time.
Let's move on just a little bit. I'm just curious about what challenges do you really face in designing programs, you know, that you're offering? You know, what are some of the challenges that you really are dealing with here?
Money?
Yeah, for every program you need instructors, facilities, equipment, curriculum, and depending on the season, some of those can be in short supply. During good economic times, you know, there's funding available to help you accomplish that. But just like we're seeing throughout the entire economy, particularly in the STEM fields, it's getting more and more difficult to find qualified individuals who have the subject matter knowledge, can teach, in many cases have the academic credentials to teach many courses at the college. You have to have a master's degree. To have that combination and find those individuals is getting more and more difficult. So there are many challenges, as Janice knows, to putting together a program.
Teachers are difficult, but so are facilities, and you know, you can't just bring in a CNC machine or a compressor without making some facility modifications. And it seems like when you're dealing with educational institutions, those are major.
Certainly.
And so,
Certainly.
like you said, there's the 4 components. And then the outcome of all those is having a student leave with credentials, whether it's certifications, and the right set of skills to go on, whether they choose to enter the workforce or whether they choose to continue their education.
But what is also vitally important, and we're all experiencing it these days, is if we don't have the students to go into the programs, we can build it. But if we can't convince the parents, the guidance counselors, the students themselves, that this is a rewarding career,
That's right.
that it just is all for naught.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, attracting students to the industry is a challenge as well.
I grew up in Michigan, and everyone left high school with a future. Either they went to college or they could step right into General Motors or to Ford or whatever and have careers because they left high school with skills. And so we basically dismantled those programs, and now these 2 people right here are rebuilding those. We have, you know, we've reconstituted the vocational pathways, so to speak, and, you know, we're thrilled that the Manufacturing Academy just opened up in Bayside this fall, and that here at Eastern Florida, the machining shop was basically closed for 10 years. And so through funding this year, both of them have been resurrected with current relevant equipment and things that are going on. So you're battling that breakdown of the education system, basically, that every kid is not going to go to college. And even if they become an engineer, it's great if they actually touch different parts of the career that they're looking towards. And they can stop here and earn a living and go on. And so I think those are some of the challenges.
Good. Appreciate that discussion. That's very interesting, and I think it's very helpful to people. I'm just curious, a couple quick questions. What are some of the educational requirements, some of the certifications that employers are looking for today?
Well, locally here, we are working collaboratively with CareerSource, Brevard Public Schools, and the EDC again to develop an entry-level manufacturing workforce based on the Manufacturing Skills Standards Certified Production Technician certification. It's a nationally recognized industry certification that validates basic technical skills of an individual. So employers, they want a degree, but what they really want is someone who has the technical skills and just basic some of those basic life skills we discussed earlier. Are they teachable? Because we will train them. Are they open-minded? Will they be accountable?
Attention to detail. And perfectionism. I hear that a lot. You know, we want somebody. I'm having this part, and I don't have any tolerance for any variation from the spec. And following the spec, making sure it's absolutely what it's supposed to be. We also are embracing, in addition to the CPT, SolidWorks, and that's for our engineering and our students in machining. That is a 3D parametric software that even if the company's using something a little bit different, it's easy to transfer that skill of a 3D drawing. And the students that get SolidWorks and CPT in Brevard Public Schools get college credit when they enter Eastern Florida's program. So those are beneficial.
That's great.
Whether they go right to work or continue on.
Right.
And those would be stackable credentials, is what we kind of call them. So.
And even some of the certifications, like the Microsoft Office certifications, because that's used so prevalently in the business. And can they write a memo? Can they put together a presentation? These are all things that are important to employers and make the individual more valuable to them.
Even in one of our sector meetings, somebody said, "I really want them to know QuickBooks."
Right.
But specifically with manufacturing parts, so we offer QuickBooks too. So there's a lot of them that are valued in the manufacturing industry.
And we try to instill in the students, look at, you need to differentiate yourself from the next person. And if you both have a degree or you both have completed this program, if you both have the same experience, those of you who have these extra industry certifications will be
A little more
looked
desirable.
upon
And
more
manufacturing
favorably.
also still depends a lot on internship and apprenticeships, working on the job, et cetera. But all of those things look different now. And as we're talking about even learning, I mean, one of the things we're doing is an online simulation training for CNC operators, which is the people who build the parts, the computer numeric coding. And so all three of our organizations are using some of that technology to graduate them in 12 weeks with usable skills. So
We've got about a minute left, and I'm just curious, for viewers that are interested, they're probably curious about what might be a salary range that they might start at, or what could they grow to. Any idea of what that might look like?
I checked today, for example, a welder, the range of wages in a welder from starting wage ranges between $10 to $36 an hour. CNC operators are about the same thing. They will step in probably earning about $15 an hour. And then because these are skills that have to be developed, they will then move up along that pathway. So it is well paying. A lot of the companies now have restored their benefits packages, you know, and there is a resurgence of keeping employees to minimize the cost of
Well,
turnover.
it certainly is a field, an industry that is growing, and we've seen great resurgence. I want to thank you all again for being here and for the great information. We'll have to stay in touch, and as things progress, perhaps have you back for another segment.
It's a pleasure.
Really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
On behalf of my guest and everyone here on the set of Your Career, thank you for watching, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org.